is our friend, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah. Is there anybody that drinks a lot of water? Who does the right thing? Let me see your hands. I need some motivation. How many people drink their required cups of water? Oh my God. Look at my embarrassment. I am shamed. I am shamed. Oh, you guys drink water like you're supposed to? Man, where's my bottle? Let me finish this. Like you drink the required amount of water a day? Oh, wow. All right, I'm motivated. I can do it. I can do it. I needed that push. Good job, guys. Guys, rock stars. All right. So today, guys, we are in chapter 2. We are in chapter 2, and I wanted to just do a quick recap. I don't know if how many of you caught it, but yesterday you were also supposed to schedule your career services meetings. Did you notice that? Give me a thumbs up if you noticed that. Normally, that was my fault because normally I have you do that on Wednesday, but I put it on Tuesday in some of your classes. And then the career long-term goals are for today. Doesn't really matter yesterday, today. It's all due this week, right? So there's no real late penalty or anything like that. But I do want to make sure I ask you about you knowing how to set up your mock interviews. Did anybody need me to go over that? Was it pretty self-explanatory in the assignment? Just give me a quick thumbs up if you want me to go over how to do that. Okay, I don't know if the thumbs up was I know how to do it or you need me to go over it. Okay, you want me to go over it? Very good. Okay, so let me go over that really quickly. I'm going to stop sharing because I normally I have you do it on Wednesday, but I forgot I had switched it to Tuesday. I want to make sure you guys get that done. And then your assignment for the long-term goals is open. So even if you did it yesterday, you're fine. You just don't have to do it today. So it's no big deal there. Let me get to the assignment, then I'll share. My computer's just going a little slow. Okay, let me go home. Let me let these people in and then I'll. So, and there's several classes here. So I'm just going to open up one person's class here. So on your assignment, and I'm just on the home page, right? So I'm going to scroll down here a bit. And they put the office hours here, guys, just FYI, just, you know, like I said before, I don't really have office hours. You can reach me at any time, but I will always obviously be available during this time if you need me, but I'm pretty much available. But if we go down to week 1 and for here, I put, actually, okay, so I did put it here, but I don't know why I think in 1 or 2 people's class, this one was up there because I just made a mistake, but it doesn't really matter. So with scheduling today, let me go ahead and show you this, even though we haven't gotten to that part yet, because I did open this up for some classes. When you schedule your appointment with career services, because remember, like I said on Monday, they are going to do a mock interview with you and they're going to review your resume. So when you open it up here, it just tells you that it says that you will be scheduling 2 appointments, you know, just really focusing on 2 appointments. The first appointment is for your resume, which will be next week, right? So you want to schedule sometime through next week for them to look at your resume. Now, you can read, so when you go on to there, and I'll show you how to do that, how to schedule in a minute, they may say, I'll do it now. Like there's no hard and fast rule. It's really up to them because remember, they're dealing with all students. So we want to, you know, give them that flexibility. We like to say it's through next week, just, you know, because they've already allotted that time. But if they want to do it a bit earlier, like I'm totally fine with that. Um, But then in week 2 is when they should be looking at your resume. But can they look at it now? They can. And then in week 3, you want to schedule some time between the 13th and the 17th to do your mock interview. Now, the mock interviews should be in person, guys. If you have any extenuating circumstances that says, oh, well, I can only do it, over the phone or whatever, that's between you and your career services. I don't mind how you do it, because this particular assignment is between you and career services. And like I said, it's an opportunity for you to get to know career services. So I'm not going to stand in the way of how that happens. So if you need to meet with them, fine. Even after you set your appointment with career services, and I'll show you where you're going to put it, because you're going to put it in this assignment, and you need to change it. Like, you don't have to reach out to me and say, oh, Miss Taylor, I know in the assignment I said that I was going to meet with career services on the 15th, but I have an appointment, or career services had to leave early. I'm going to do it on the 17th. You don't have to tell me that. That's just between you and them. So as long as you've given me the initial time, and it has to be changed, like, I don't need to be a part of that process. That's just between you and career services. Okay. So what you do, because you want to come down here and find your campus. Go ahead, Corey.
So in my submission for the assignment, I was very vague. I didn't know the exact dates, but I spoke with my lady and she told me that I'm going to come in the next following Mondays. Is that okay?
So is
like,
she saying,
and then the Monday after that?
No, I think what she's talking about, you're going to come in to do what?
Well, my first, so next Monday I'm coming in for my resume, and then the following Monday is my mock interview. And I put that as my submission.
You're going to come in this assignment and you're going to put resume review October.
I was just vague. I wasn't very descriptive.
Okay, that's yeah, that's no big deal. But you've talked to them and you got it. That's the main point, right? So if you put that the next 2 Mondays, I'm fine with that. I can read a calendar. Okay, no problem. So to that point, to Corey's point, so Corey, I'm not sure what campus you're from. What campus are you from?
I believe just the Tampa campus.
Your Tampa? Okay, no, I only say that because here it tells you what you're supposed to do. So Corey called Susan, right? So you see here it says Tampa. Please reach out to Susan at this number or use her email to contact her. Right? Up here, if you're Brandon, you need to, let me just let these people in. You need to actually use this link. So it's important that you go to this assignment. And if you're Brandon, to set up your appointment, you click on this link, right? And once you click on the link, then it asks you to choose between the type of meeting you want to have. So the first one that you're going to choose is resume writing. Don't freak out about the hour. That's just how they set it up. It doesn't mean that you're going to be there for an hour or that you even have to come in, but you want to set it up so they can reach out to you. So just choose a time between next week and Thursday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, preferably. So I'll just say 1:30, right? If I can do it, whatever, or just choose a time and then call her or him. Put in your email address, put in your phone name, put in all this, right? And then put in your academic program, and then hit continue. You can save it for future bookings because you're going to do one for mock interviews. So if you want to click that, that's fine. And then you hit continue. It'll verify that the information is correct and then submit. And once you do that, then you're going to come back here again and you're going to do the same thing for your mock interview, right? So this time, just when you go back in, if you're Brandon, instead of choosing resume writing, you're going to choose mock interview. Now, I don't know why the mock interview is 15. Okay, it's not my business. So you choose that and you go through that same process. Once you get those 2 times, then you're going to come back to this assignment and you're going to, like you normally would, let me just view as a student, you're going to hit start assignment. And because you're just telling me the time, just go ahead and click text entry and put, resume, time, whatever, blah, 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 mock interview time, blah, blah, blah. That's all you have to do for this assignment. Okay? But just pay attention to the campus because Brandon, they have a link. If you're in Sanford, they want you to call. And it says you can also call these two because this is the main campus and these are the people that you're going to speak to, right? So you can also call their direct line. Orlando has a link. They just want you to pay attention to the person's name. So if you're in the HVAC program, they want you to set up your appointment with Princess. If you're in the MA or VAT with Michelle, and welding and electrical with Andromeda. Now in Orlando, you just have to find their names because Orlando is a pretty big campus, right? So if you're doing a resume, then you just make sure you choose the person's name, right? So if you're welding electrical, this person, or that person for their programs. That's the only difference with Orlando, right? So you're going to do that, and then you're going to come back and put the times in. Arbondale, they have an appointment. Port Charlotte has an appointment, and then Tampa, you're supposed to call. Make sense? Any questions on that? All right. So let me go ahead and stop that. Get back to our. All right. So chapter 2 piggybacks off of chapter 1 because it digs a little bit deeper into these skills, right? Obviously, we need skills, right? We wouldn't be in school if we didn't need skills, right? The skills that we are learning, we do not currently have. So that the whole point of you going to college is to acquire these skills that companies say that they need. So chapter 2 talks about these skills. It also talks about, other things that are important to you in the workplace, like ethics. And then it touches a little bit on digital citizenship, and we'll talk about that at the end. So we all know we need basic skills. I don't think anyone needs to be told that you need to be able to read, write, speak, listen, do math, and have some basic technology skills. We know that, right? We also know that we need technical skills, i.e. hard skills, and I call technical skills and hard skills that interchangeably because it is how it's written in the book, and it could be on your midterms. I want you to make sure you get comfortable with technical skills are also considered hard skills. They're the same thing. What are these technical skills? There's what you're learning in your programs now, how to physically do the work. I think it goes without saying that you need to be skilled in that area. But like we discussed yesterday, you also need other employability skills, transferable skills. They're known as soft skills. So if you see them in chapter 2, and they use the terminology employability skill, transferable skill, they're all talking about soft skill. What are these skills, right? Well, they help you do what? Um, Communicate, deal with others, work effectively on a team. You can acquire them in school, you can acquire them through life experience. They include skills like thinking, people, and your personal qualities. Is one of the reasons why we wanted you to do that personality test, is because, everybody thinks different. Everybody has different, life experiences. And so their foundational skills vary, right? For those of you, how many people have siblings? Who has siblings? More than one. Who has more than one sibling? Let me tell you something. I am so jealous of you guys. I am so jealous of you guys. You know why? Well, and who, let me ask this. Who's the only child? Let me let the who's the only child? Okay. So I had a brother. I have one brother, which basically meant I was an only child because you're not supposed to say I was an only child, right? I had a brother, whatever. But what I love about people that have siblings, you get an early glimpse into the real world. You know why? Because you guys have to deal with people. You have to negotiate. You have to compromise. Y'all learn those skills very early on. For us, only children or maybe only have one sibling, we get to be selfish our whole career, our whole childhood. We don't know any different. We don't know that it's not normal. I feel sorry for my kid. I look at my kid and she has everything she could ever possibly want only because she doesn't have to share with anybody. And she's even selfish. I'm like, oh my gosh, she's becoming a little selfish. Because when I ask her, she was like, get your own. I'm like, but that's like the whole bag. Do you think the whole bag belongs to you? And she does. Like she cannot separate out like this concept of sharing. And I'm like, oh my goodness, I should have had more children. It didn't work out that way, but I should have had more children. You guys you get those foundational skills because it's trial by fire for those of you in your household. Like I wish, you guys are way more normal than I was when I turned 18 because I had to learn those skills the hard way. In the military, no doubt. Like I had my first roommate in the military. I had to learn how to compromise. What is that? So, like, I always feel like the home, right, the nucleus of our foundation, you get a lot of skills growing up and you appreciate it later in life, right? I feel like you guys make the best teammates. You probably have more patience than us only children. I'm not dogging us only kids or people with only one sibling out, but y'all know what I'm talking about, right? Anybody that's the only child, do you understand what I'm saying? I think our worldview is just a little different. Unless if you go ahead, Erica, you want to say something? Unless you do sports or something to help you get out of that. But at any rate, you need to what when you go into a job, they do expect you to have some of these foundational skills, however you get it, whether you got it in the home, you got it through doing some type of extracurricular activity that helps you get these foundational skills, right? And a lot of it centers around you being able to engage with others. When we circle back to these types of skills, especially something called emotional intelligence, I'll pick back up on that. So, in addition to these soft skills, the company is really big on you understanding ethics, which is something else we learn first in our home. The problem is it depends on the type of home you grew up in, right? Because what's ethical and principled to one family is not necessarily with to another, right? You can't even break that down by nationality or ethnicity. None of that really matters because what goes on in somebody's home is very different. Will we all agree? You can take I always laugh because you could take people that live on a street and you walk into somebody's home just across the street and the vibe is totally different from your house or the next person's house or the next person's house, right? And that has a lot to do with the morals and principles and values of that particular household. So when we talk about your belief system and your behavior, it's very unique to how you grew up, right? But here's the deal. Companies also have ethics. And a lot of their ethics is centered around the type of work that they do. So think about your particular industry. Who's in the VA program? You already know. You dealing with a lot. You dealing with medicine, you dealing with animals, you dealing with a life. It's not a human life, but it's an animal life, right? You're dealing with a lot. So there's a lot of ethics surrounding the type of work that you do. Is it not true? So and sometimes it could conflict with your personal ethics are. So companies cannot take those types of risks. So when you come to that company, they are going to go, there is like a faucet that they're going to turn on, and they're going to teach you all about their ethics. Why? Because they don't want to end up in court. So they have to train you to their standards based on their industry and the type of work that they do. The same thing is going to happen with welding and electrical and HVAC. Can you imagine? Especially if you're dealing in residential environments. So the workplace ethics, right? And I don't want you to confuse these two. Pay attention to these two because on the midterm, people always get these two wrong. Not always, but they get them confused. Workplace ethics, what are they? They are principles that help define your behavior. What type of behavior? Appropriate behavior. What do you mean by appropriate? I'm an adult. Well, I'm talking about the right type of behavior for that job. If we worked in banking, if we worked in banking, anybody ever worked in the financial industry? Do we really need to talk about the type of ethics that you need to have working in the financial industry? Huh? The education industry, the health industry, right? There's a lot that goes into working into those industries. So when you go into your industry, your company is going to make sure you understand the appropriate behavior. Now, watch this. What is the difference between these different codes? You see code of conduct and code of ethics, where your code of conduct, right? It dictates what? How you behave, how you behave, right? So the ethics is all about appropriate behavior in a business setting. The code of conduct, how you're going to conduct yourself, is how you behave. The code of ethics is how the business is conducted. So the code of conduct is how you're going to behave when you represent the company. The code of ethics is how you're going to physically do the work. Hmm? That makes sense? Companies cannot assume that you're going to have the right code of conduct. As we can all attest to, have we ever been provided a service and you're like, what happened here? Clearly, training did not. If the company knew that this person was delivering this service in this particular manner, but we just don't have time to deal with all that, right? So we know that, it is important. It is important. Imagine if you were the owner of that business that you went to where you received that poor service. Would you not be mortified? And that is why companies try to train their employees because they don't want to lose business because of your code of conduct. In the army, in the military, we used to carry around our little cards, right? Military people, we had to carry them around. Top left hand pocket. They want you to have, most people will say, why do all those military people act a certain way? Well, it got shoved down our throats, honey. Your first year in the military, they're going to teach you how they want you to perform. So when you see one military person, you see them all, right? Not to say that some don't do their own thing, but they all have the same code of conduct. And they have their little values on the back. Anybody remember that was in the military? So it's because they want you to behave a certain way, as it should, right? As you should. I would think that when we all go to the bank, do we not all have a mind, a thinking of how the bank staff should behave? Do we not? We all have in our mind what we expect. When you go to the hospital, you have this image in your head of how you expect them to behave. When you guys go do your work, whether it's residential, commercial, government, people have a expectation of you, right? You can't just show up how you want to. You need to show up according to what is appropriate. Does that make sense? You're providing a service. And you are an expert. That's what people think. You are a professional. What do you mean by that? Well, you have an advanced degree. That's what a professional is. Anybody with an advanced degree. You are the subject matter expert. If I hire somebody to come do electrical in my house, when you show up, I'm expecting you to be the subject matter expert. Huh? When you sit down in the barber's chair or the beautician's chair and they say, you want to help me do this? You be like, what? You're the expert, right? So you have to conduct yourself as such. Why is it important? Let me tell you why. My friends, unethical can get you what? Fired. But guess what can get you in trouble? Illegal. You need to know the difference because guess what happens? Sometimes people do things that are unethical, which goes against what the workplace ethics is, and they have the nerve to also do something illegal. And illegal can get you, that's a crime. Unethical can get you just put in jail. Now, watch this. You need to know the difference between the both. In the book, it gives you two, the obvious ones, right? When it deals with humans, discrimination and harassment. Why do companies care about that so much? Why do you think companies care about discrimination and harassment so much? Outside of the fact that, clearly it's probably going to be unethical because I'm sure they're going to have it in their code of conduct, but it's also illegal. Why do you think companies care about those two so much? Anybody want to guess? What's the big deal? I mean, from the obvious, right? Dealing with people, but what's the big deal that you think that is? Let's think about the optics of it all. Just think about the optics. Think about education, for example, like a high school. Can you imagine a teacher discriminating and harassing? Can you just imagine what that would do to not only that school, right? The district, the profession, possible lawsuit. Who wants all that drama? If you're a business, right? A lot of you say you wanted to start your own business. Can you imagine you send somebody out to do a job, do the HVAC, do the welding, do the electrical, and you get hit with a lawsuit? Ruined your whole business. Why? Why? Because some knucklehead decided he wanted to get a little too friendly and the person took it the wrong way and things went left and went right. You know those things do happen, right? Those things do happen. So a company is really going to pay attention to those things. Anything that's illegal and unethical, yeah, you're probably going to get trained once a quarter on that type stuff. But that is why. That is why. I mean, put yourself in their shoes. That makes sense, right? So something else that a company is going to want you to be mindful of, and this is something you're going to want to be mindful of when we get into networking, is how you are on the internet. I know we are at the place in time where how you behave online is as important as how you behave in person. Can you believe it? Anybody surprised by that? What do you mean? I can get Karened? Y'all know how many people lose their jobs because of their activity online? Give me a thumbs up if you think that's even fair. Do you think that's fair? Give me a thumbs up if you think, yeah, you should get fired based on how you act online. Anybody agree with that? Who agrees with that? Who doesn't agree with that? Who feels like, hey, that's my personal time? What I do on my personal time is my business. My office hours are between 9 and 5. My office hours are between 9 and 5. What I do between 6 and 8 is my business. Now, let me ask you a question. Maybe you may have heard of this. Did you guys hear about that teacher that got fired because of what she did after 9 to 5 online? Use your imagination. Do you think that's fair? Give me a thumbs up if you feel you had your child had a social studies teacher and she had a friendly page. That's her personal page. She still teach social studies. Would you have an issue with that? Give me a thumbs up if you would have an issue with your sixth grade stu- uh child social studies teacher having a special page. Well, so did the district. She got fired. Now, you may say, but wait a minute. But guess what? Oftentimes, I'm just trying to give it some context. A lot of how many people have students that I mean children and they get issued what? Laptops and iPads. And they're always online doing research. What if your child, how old are you in sixth grade? 10, 11, stumbles upon something that their social studies teacher put out? Would you have an issue with that? You see my point? So, yes, companies are going to be concerned with what you do online the same way they would be concerned if you went out in the middle of the street and did something crazy. Is there really a difference? Because guess what? When you sign that contract, when you sign that employment contract, make sure you read the fine print. It says that you are an agent. You are an agent of the institution. When we're in the military, it gets even worse. It says that we are a property. Did you know that? They consider soldiers military property. You definitely cannot do what you want when you're in the military. Do you guys agree with that? Do you think that's fair or not fair? Should military folks be able to have office hours? No. Why our office hours got to be 24/7? That ain't fair. But you see my point, right? Matthew, take yourself off of exit. This is a new little system that they've done. I don't know why it stopped the spotlighting. Okay. So, um, like it or love it, it's a thing. It's a thing. Anaya, I don't know if your hand is just up if you have a question. It's a thing. Now, the other side of that is this. We do want you to be online. Because guess what? You still have to promote yourself. And when we start talking about networking, we're going to talk about you need to promote yourself, but you just need to be careful what you're promoting because there's this thing called a digital footprint, which means that if you post things that are inappropriate and somebody finds it, you can lose your job, you can affect your business. And you have to ask yourself the question, is it even worth it? Sorry, myself got muted. Sorry. All right, you guys can hear me, right? Give me a quick thumbs up. Okay. So I have known people, did some people get, other people get kicked out too? Because I just got kicked out too. I guess a lot of people got kicked out. Um, there are companies that will do research on you to see what you post. Fair or not fair, it happens. It's not like back in my day where we had a grievance with something, we just go on the back porch or on our neighborhood and talk a little crap and be done with it. You don't always have to post your feelings online because once you do that, it's public. Those feelings are no longer yours. They belong to everybody that sees them. So please be mindful of that, especially if you're going to start your own business. But we'll talk more about that later. Chapter 2 also talks about cloud computing, and that is just a lot of companies are using online modalities to store information. We're online right now. We're using a cloud-based video system, right? A lot of companies use Google, Microsoft to store information, and they want you to be good stewards of their information. So they'll talk about all the privacy concerns associated with that. That's part of you being a professional. The same thing with software and things that you download. If your company has any type of intellectual property, how that you have to be mindful of that and be respectful of that and make sure you protect that if you're online, right? But all of that will be, if it's relevant to your industry, those things will be, obviously presented to you in your training. We know about that. All right. Netiquette is part of what I was talking about when you're online, being proper, being, not saying or doing anything that could affect you or your company. You are a professional, so you have to behave in a professional way. That's why a lot of professional people are not even online. I haven't been on or if they are, they're just doing it and they do professional stuff only. And they keep their private stuff private as much as possible because they just don't want those types of things to affect them, as you can appreciate, right? And I'm sure most people can appreciate that. So just know that, yes, once you become a professional, you have to move differently. You just do. I mean, would you want, I mean, did y'all see what happened to the dentist in California recently? Anybody heard about that? Quick thumbs up. Have you heard about what happened to that dentist that was talking about her political views? Well, in I think a Santa Clara, Clarita or something like that. Y'all know how those names are. You heard about that, right? A dentist had the audacity to have a video, and it was a couple years ago, where she was talking about her political affiliations, and she was pro one side, and she was proud to be pro one side. And then I don't know what possessed her to say that if somehow she found out that her patient was not on her side, then it will determine how much pain medication she gave them. Now that's all kinds of ignorance. But can you imagine? Can you imagine? First off, uh, yeah, okay, we can go ahead and finish out that story. I think she got hit with like 13 lawsuits. We can go ahead and finish out that story. But like there's a word I want to use, but I don't want to be rude. And it start with an S and it ends with a D. Like, come on. Like, come on. Really? Where's that oath that you took? When you get a license, a medical license, you take an oath, right? You do realize that. And the oath says that you will not do harm. That is the reason why you get a license in the first place if you don't know. So for all of you guys that are going to get a license, when you take an oath getting that license, it's going to say you cannot harm the public. Why? Because you are an expert in whatever it is that you do. The laws are made, I hate to say this, but to protect the public from you because you're the expert. So when you get a license, you have to take an oath not to harm the public. Ma'am, let's just stop there. Let's just stop there. Does it matter what your political affiliation is? Really, ma'am? How many people think she should lose her license? Now, if you agree with her, you may get extra pain medication. Maybe there's a perk for you. Go ahead, Moses. Does that make any sense? None, right? Mm-mm. So anyway, let's not be that person, right? Let's not be her, right? That was ethically wrong. Just that the S word that I really want to say, just don't make any sense whatsoever. Like, let's not be her. Like, let's learn from what not to do, right? So obviously, rules of etiquette and proper etiquette and things you post and things you don't post. I'm glad she posted it because I would want to know if my doctor was nuts. But being a human first, following standards, knowing where you are in cyberspace, respecting others' people, make yourself look good online. What are we doing? You have to promote yourself. You're going to be promoting yourself. We'll talk a lot about that in weeks 3, right? There you go. Rule number 9. Don't abuse your power, ma'am. Make sense? All right. Here's our participation question for the day. Like I said, if you've already done your long-term goals, you're ahead of the game since we talked about that yesterday. If not, those are due today. Make sure you check today's assignments. I think that's the only thing that's due today, but make sure you check it. Here's your participation question for today. Here's what I want to know. I want you to name one quality that you believe sets you above competition and one quality you would approve upon. Now, maybe you might say, hey, I think I got a leg up because I've been in this game. My father, my grandfather, my uncle, my aunt, they kind of own the business and I've been kind of working it. So I think it gives me a leg up. Or maybe I already had this career and I'm transitioning over into this new career and I get to bring all of my qualities with me. Whatever you feel gives you a competitive advantage. I want you to think about that. It's going to make sense when we start talking about how to promote ourselves tomorrow when we talk about resumes and next week. So name one quality that sets you above the competition and one quality you would like to improve because nobody's perfect. Nobody's perfect. Who would want to be? Huh? All right, my friends. You don't have anything for me. Thank you so much for joining me this morning. Thank you so much. Erica, you have a question?
Yes, in regards to our midterm, uh, should we be studying what we discuss? My apologies. Should we discuss what we are going over in our lectures, or should we just be reading over our textbooks, or how do we study for our midterm?
Great question. So make sure you read the chapters that are assigned to you in each week. So this week we are in chapters 1, 2, and 7. And then next week you're going to be in chapters, I forget which ones, but you just hit the week 2 course readings. You can see it if you want to get ahead of that. The midterm will be open book. So there's nothing that you need to necessarily prepare for ahead of time outside of just reading the material. I think it's 25 questions, multiple choice. There are some fill in the blank, but they're based on the chapters for weeks 1 and 2. And there's no time limit on it.
Okay, so I assume the day that we have the midterm, or the day that the midterm is open and available to us, we have until 11:59 that day to submit.
No, actually, if you remember, we all your assignments open on a Monday. So come Monday of next week, even though the midterm technically is Thursday of that week, your midterm will be open. So every week, regardless of whether it's a test or just an assignment, all the assignments are open, including your midterm. So that's a great question. You can do your midterm whenever you want. Now, I'm not going to advise you to do it early if I haven't gone over the material, but if you read the material and you want to jumpstart it, some people go out of town, they have other things, and they want to take the midterm. I'm not going to be mad at you, but you can't retake it if you don't do good. And that midterm is going to be open from this, excuse me, this coming Monday until that Sunday. So if you don't do your midterm on Thursday, can you do it on Friday? Yeah, Saturday or Sunday, as long as you get it done by that Sunday.
Okay, thank you, Miss Taylor.
No problem. It's a great question, Erica. Any other questions? And I'll actually reiterate that tomorrow when we because tomorrow will be our last day for the week. Well, all right, y'all. Hasta mañana. See you tomorrow.